Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Hello, Kampala, Uganda. In response to the national call of strengthening the traffic security, Good Products Group HGO brand has officially launched the Rider Selection Campaign. Registration is now open. Visit www.riders.hgo.com. Complete your registration now for a chance to win exciting prizes including motorcycles, exclusive HGO gift boxes, and official rider vests, all while promoting safe riding awareness. This is how to participate. Pay the registration fee, invite 3 friends to form a team of 4, and your registration fee will instantly be refunded. Begin your journey of honor today. Don't miss this opportunity. Join the challenge, promote road safety, and become a pioneer rider. For details, visit the official Good Products website at www.hgo.com or call toll free 0800-335-555 or visit our offices at Kingdom Kampala 3rd floor to register now and win prizes worth millions.
Pick of the day on UBC.
He expected me to die like within the first 2 years.
Out of the blue, the child will get pains, especially in the wrists. And this happens commonly when children are starting to walk.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100*21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Okwongera okuyiga ebikwata ku musolo n'okubisembereza abagusasula. Bannayuganda bangi balina ebibuuzo ebikwata ku musolo gwe basasula eri ekitongole kiwooza URA.
When we come at revenue, they tell us to clear Chitenge at 10,000.
Alikuwa fika kwa mwingine URA na kurespect lazima mzee tuongee. Munaongea. Hakuna fika kwa mwingine na kamata faili yako na kwa drawer na.
Okutegeera obukulu bw'okusasula omusolo busobola okuyamba okuzza bizinesi yo n'okwewala okufiirizibwanga. Kati osobola okufuna okuddibwamu obutereevu. Sindika ebibuuzo ebikwata ku musolo ng'oweereza obubaka bw'obutereevu ne WhatsApp ku nnamba y'essimu 07941887 olwo ofuna okuddibwamu okuva ewaka Kamisona General URA John Musinguzi. Laba mawulire gaffe UBC leero buli lwa bbalaza n'olwokusatu ofuna okunnyonnyola okulambulukufu okuva ew'omukenkufu. Buuza Kamisona.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
In all these years, we emphasize 2 words, wealth and jobs, and we try to waken our people up to show them where wealth and jobs come from.
The Parish Development Model, PDM, is a bold initiative that is reshaping Uganda's rural economy. By allocating 100 million shillings to each parish annually, PDM empowers households by unlocking opportunities for wealth creation.
This program will be maintained.
In the neighborhood, near stagnant water and mosquito breeding sites, malaria lurks, always waiting to strike. But fear not, for here comes Mr. Vaxa, the ultimate protector against malaria. For years, malaria has been one of the biggest threats to children under 5, making them weak and even putting their lives at risk. But now, the government is introducing a new solution, the malaria vaccine. The malaria vaccine is now in the routine immunization schedule. The malaria vaccine is administered in 4 doses at 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and 18 months. This vaccine will provide extra protection against severe malaria. And don't forget, routine immunization protects children from many deadly diseases. Every vaccine matters. Visit the nearest health facility for routine immunization services today. Mr. Vaxa, the malaria vaccine is free, safe, and ready to protect our children. Will you join the fight and complete all 4 doses? For more information, call the Ministry of Health on 0800 100 066. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
A very good morning to you who is watching UBC TV. You're watching GMU Extra. Thank you so much, Ruben Chibirango, for the sports segment. You've really done a fantastic job. Now, right now, we're going to take you still more into the malaria vaccine, proudly sponsored by the Ministry of Health. You know that their responsibility is to ensure that we are well educated as far as new interventions that have been brought on board to reduce the burden of malaria, which is still high in Africa, is concerned. But there is new hope. And the hope is with the vaccine. Now, with me in studio to help us understand more, I am joined by Dr. Deogracias Munube, who is a consultant pediatrician, a honorary lecturer, and a PhD candidate. Thank you so much for joining me, Doctor. Good morning.
Good morning to you, and I would like to thank UBC for hosting such an important show.
You're most welcome. Doctor, I know you hold other titles because you're not here by default. We're talking about malaria. I know you also, you also have many other umbrellas under which you are holding the capacity which you do. Please share them with us right now.
Thank you. So just to let you know, members who are listening, I do co-chair the Uganda Technical Working Group for Immunization. We call that the Uganda NITAG. And one of the roles that we do is to ensure that vaccines that are being introduced into the country are safe and available for our population. This is a role that's given to us by the Ministry of Health.
Mm-hmm. Now, Doctor, because we've been talking about the vaccine all through, but I would like you to just briefly start by sharing how big is the burden for a person who is watching right now, because they might think we just want to spend resources in one direction, given the fact that a lot of interventions have already been done, like residue spraying, the mosquito nets majorly. Please share with us.
So thank you. Malaria still remains one of the biggest causes of death in Africa and in Uganda. If I look at the Africa statistics, close to about 2 million children die of malaria in Africa. When we come closer to Uganda, people may not appreciate how many people die due to malaria, but we can appreciate how many people are admitted in hospitals. So malaria as a major cause of admission within our hospitals is still on the top 5 diseases. And more importantly to note, if you go to an emergency unit in a health facility in Uganda, you will find that out of every 5 children who come to that health facility, 2 of them will have severe forms of malaria and they would need admission.
Okay, but with the interventions that we have put in place, what are some of the challenges? Because if we're still talking about the same, it's like we've been given the preventive measures, right? But we still seem to realize that it's like at every other time we have to bring in another one to counter and support what is already in existence.
So malaria as a disease is very interesting. It requires multiple prongs. By prongs, I mean we need to hit it from each direction. So when we talk of control, it means we want to reduce the way the malaria is transmitted. So how can we prevent the mosquito from biting the individual? And you have mentioned clearly, we have had mosquito net distribution. We have had what they call indoor residual spraying in what we call high districts with high burdens. Currently, as I speak right now, in the Busoga region, they have launched an indoor residual spraying program where community workers are going house to house and spraying to ensure that they reduce the malaria biting mosquito, the Anopheles mosquito. So when you look at that, those are all the external parts. Now, when the mosquito gets to you and bites you, now we have introduced the malaria vaccine to reduce the extent to which you can get a severe form of malaria, and also to protect you. So vaccines work in unique ways. You introduce a vaccine, the body recognizes it, builds what we call immunity against that disease, so that when the plasmodium, which is the malaria parasite, comes into you, the body wakes up and kills it while it's in your body. So that's one of the other ways in which we are preventing malaria in the population.
Okay. Now, as a hemato-oncologist, I know you're dealing with a lot of children also with your background, and one of the areas where you've been very, very supportive and helpful is with children with sickle cell disease. What is the danger, or why is it that, you know, they are also, how would I call them, they're the high-risk group when it comes to malaria?
So thank you for that question. I think the first thing that we need to know is that why is it that we have a lot of sickle cell in the country? People who have the gene, that is one part of the sickle cell disease, or what we call the trait, are protected against severe forms of malaria. So malaria as a disease in our community has not been able to reduce the number of people who have the gene. So as a result of that, the gene is propagated in the population because of that unique characteristic of protecting you against severe forms of malaria. And that's why we get people with sickle cell disease. So when you have sickle cell disease, the biggest challenge with it is that if you get malaria, you tend to get a severe form of malaria. You already have low blood levels, and one characteristic of malaria is breaking down your blood, or what we call the red blood cells, so you get a severe form of malaria. So that's where the interest comes in. And moreover, with sickle cell disease, you do have to provide the children and adults with malaria prophylaxis. You give them the malaria drugs, which they take routinely to help prepare the body for that eventuality of when you get the malaria, the body is able to have a drug inside to begin the first layer of protection. And when we introduce the malaria vaccine into this population, now they have two prongs. I have the medicine in me, I have the antibodies to fight, I'm using a bed net, the environment in which you are is sprayed so that you reduce the transmission. So that's how we look at the control of malaria.
Now you said routinely. Routinely is what? Because, you know, there are some where it might be, you know, lifelong or throughout, and you have to take it daily, or it has particular, you know, break it down for a lay person to get to understand when we say routinely.
So routinely, what I mean is that when you provide malaria prophylaxis to this group of people living with sickle cell disease, you are actually giving them a medicine which they are taking every week, some every month, some every 2 weeks. But within Uganda, we provide a medication across many parts of the districts, which is once a month. So we provide Fansida to the children and adults, which they take once a month. In some places, they take chloroquine, which is once a week. So that really guides you. Recently, and I'm happy to say, we have had new studies that have looked at introducing other anti-malarial drugs which can be more effective, and we hope that slowly this information will be disseminated and the Ministry of Health will take up this information.
Okay. Who is eligible for the malaria vaccine? We've had that debate quite a lot. Much of they've told them the specific age bracket and by what period the child should have been vaccinated. We still have scenarios of questions of like, what about if a child has a specific condition, say like a sickler, can they still receive the malaria vaccine? Who can and who cannot?
So important to note that within the Ministry of Health, we have the expanded program for immunization, the EPI program. And by chance, or should I say by evidence, most of our vaccines are given to infants. So mainly children under 12 months of age. Recently, we have had more introduction of vaccines where now more children under 2 years of age are the ones who are receiving most of our vaccines. And I would say more than 90% of our vaccines go to children under 2 years of age. When you look specifically at the malaria vaccine, all the studies that have been done have been focused on the high-risk groups, and those are children under 5 years of age. So the focus actually is on children under 5 years of age, and more specifically, those under 2 years. So the malaria vaccine currently is given at 6 months, 7 months, 8 months of age, and then 1.5 years or 18 months of age. So that is the current focus we have. There is, of course, the interest that can we go beyond? Now, the other options that we do have is, can we look at specific high-risk groups that may require these vaccines? For example, if you have a foreigner coming into a malaria endemic country, wouldn't be this person benefit from the vaccine? Right now, currently, they just take antimalarials prior to traveling before they come into an area.
Okay, that's quite interesting when you talk about that. Now, amongst them still, allay the fears, like we said, yes, of who else is eligible. You talked about the age bracket, those ones that you classified as high risk, but are there any medical conditions that might prevail that prevent one from accessing, or in that particular eligible age bracket? Are there any way where you would say that when somebody has, let's assume, this kind of cancer, I'm sorry to use that as an example, they are not eligible to getting, you know, the vaccine?
Yes, so the type of vaccine that you use is what guides who can receive and who cannot receive. So for example, if you use the cancer case, these are a group of people who have some form of immunosuppression, meaning that their cells are breaking down and they cannot fight many things. So if you give what you call a live attenuated vaccine, then that vaccine is basically you're introducing the disease to the person. Now, the current malaria vaccine is not a live attenuated, so it would not cause harm to groups of people who may be immunosuppressed. In our immunization calendar or schedule, we have the BCG vaccine, which is one of the only vaccines that are contraindicated for someone who may have immunosuppression. But interestingly, we give it at birth. So very few of our babies, when they are born, are immunosuppressed. They're very healthy. They're a bundle of joy. They look really chubby. So even though we know there's a contraindication to that, we give it at a time where the risk is almost zero.
Okay, for you who is just joined into the show, the WhatsApp line is displayed on your screen. Please, you can participate in the conversation. You've always been asking to get the actual experts, that's the doctors on set, and they should be able to respond to your queries or your questions or your concerns. And I have one with me in studio. This would be the right time. Now, during one of the shows, we once had an argument where people were like, at what point? Because in our minds, we all know that the babies, much as it's intramuscular, it's on the thighs. And there was an argument where one was saying, but no, you cannot give the baby the malaria vaccine on the upper arm. Please clarify that. Which vaccines are given possibly where? Because I think for us, we think the upper arm is only for us, the adults.
Yes, so thank you. So when you come to what we call programming, meaning implementing a wide scale of interventions, you have to develop SOPs or standard operating procedures. So in the case of the malaria vaccine, just to be clear, it is given on the thigh. Okay? And what we say is the anterolateral, so on the outer part of the thigh. Now, in some places, depending on how many vaccines they have, they could give it on a different site. But for our operational understanding, such that if a healthcare worker asks a mother, which vaccines have you received, they actually point to the different places. So you will find they would tell you at 6 weeks, I got 3 injections on the right, and I got 2 injections on the left. At 9 months, I got an injection on the upper. So automatically, when you hear 9 months and you get this, and you ask, was it 1 or 2? And they say 2. So you know 1, they have received the measles, 2, they have received the yellow fever. If they come back at 18 months and they get only 1, then you know that they have come and received the booster dose of measles. And they will get the second dose, or what we call the after dose, which helps to prevent the reoccurrence of measles diseases on that. So we use the sites for programming to allow us to understand. And actually, all health workers, when they are implementing these, we actually train them on where you should give the injections, the distances from each, because as you inject one here, you can't inject the same one in the same pace. You say move a few centimeters and give the second, move another. Now the concern for me sometimes that the mothers tell me, doctor, the injections are too many. My baby cries a lot. So I would like to quickly sneak in something here and tell the listeners that we have adverse effects following immunization. Now these AFIs are conditions that can occur post-immunization. We want community members to report about them. Go back to your health facility and tell them that after I was immunized, my child had a fever, my leg was swollen, my child was vomiting, so that we're able to monitor. When most of these studies are done, they are done in ideal situations. They are trials. Now what we're looking at as the Ministry of Health or as interested stakeholders, we want to know what happens in the real world. So this is something that I would happily tell the listeners. If you have a child who comes in for a vaccination session and has any complaint post-vaccination, please report to your nearest health facility and tell them about this condition, which we call an adverse effect following immunization.
There are situations where some of the mothers have complained. Like I'll give an example. If you look at 6, then 7, then 8, much as they give distances, there's certain, is it called an abscess, where you still feel like a mass around the point where the prick was taken. And then the place becomes a little bit hard, and then you have to do the next place, then the next place. How should they manage it? Let's assume you could be able to give them a little bit of first aid tips as mothers to allay their fears and for them to know it's nothing maybe that can be serious. It is something that's minor and can go away with time if you handle it this way.
Yes, so that's another important point you've brought up. When you give an injection is not innocent in the sense that it will rupture through your skin and into your tissues. Now what happens after the injection? They introduce the vaccine, and there is what you call an induration or a post-injection swelling, which can occur. Now the body responds differently in different people. When the vaccine is introduced into the part of the body, there are what you call cells in the body that go there and find out what is this abnormal thing that has come in. And some cells can be very aggressive and say, now this looks to be something bad, and they form like a wall around it. And then they kill whatever is there, and they form an abscess. Now that abscess that is formed post-immunization is what I mentioned earlier, an adverse event following immunization. You should not have an abscess after vaccination. That is an abnormality. You may have an induration which could persist for a period of time, but it should go down. And really we recommend no major interventions, because some others would say, now, before I go for immunization, I'm going to give a pain medication to my child. And that is a no, because we actually want to see if our vaccine is working. And sometimes fevers do occur. It means the body has recognized something within, within that child. Also, we don't recommend the massaging or the rubbing. We do know that the child will feel pain because of the injection. For a few hours or so, the children may limit the movement of their legs, but it should resolve. If the child's leg remains unmovable up to 24 hours, then you must come back to the health facility because there may be an abnormality which has taken place.
Okay. I hope you've not had any of those incidents seriously, or they might occur in some situations like you explained.
Yes, so abscesses can occur, but these are the things we need to know about and need to be reported. And when we receive such a report, an investigation actually takes place. There's a formal reporting system, and there is a line in which someone is sent over to that home or to that health facility to find out exactly what happened.
Now let me get into some of the concerns of the people who are participating and were watching. One of them is still like, what the doctors, Professor actually Mohoraz explained to them the other week that they chose to start with the high-risk areas. Now everybody's anxious, when is it coming to as close as Kampala and other regions which are a little bit closer, which are also affected by the burden of malaria?
Yes, so whenever we look at interventions, we look at the epidemiology. Basically, we're asking questions: who is affected, when are they affected, where are they affected, and how are they being affected? Now, important to note is when you look at the map of Uganda, we already have high-risk regions, high-risk districts, where they have what we call high transmission rates. So the decision to start was based on that epidemiological distribution. And really, the limitation for us is the availability of resources to go over the whole country. And we are usually guided by the Ministry of Finance. If we are to use scenario 1, this is how much we need. Scenario 2, this is how much we need, and how long it will take us. So the guidance is by the Ministry of Finance, by the Ministry of Health, by international partners, help us in making a final decision. If, for example, we had all the resources, and you know what is important is we are limited with resources, we would not be discussing some of the things we are saying we could possibly have rolled out to the whole country. But we have looked at the scientific evidence, where are the people dying most, where is the malaria causing us big burdens, and that's why we use high transmissible districts. And slowly, over a period of time, every single district in Uganda will be covered by the malaria vaccine.
Now, with the excitement that this can actually happen and has been done and has been proven also in other areas, how are we supporting some of our own researchers? Because let me just use a simple scenario, COVIDX, yeah? How are we supporting some of these others to be able to use, because you hear them say scenarios of like, if you plant lemongrass close to your house, it's a repellent, you know, it serves as a mosquito repellent. How are we planning to use some of our natural, you know, resources and materials we have to see to it that we can do some of this, given the fact that the resource base or the resource envelope is not big, to ensure that everybody can be able to get the vaccine?
Yes, I think in terms of malaria, and this is really my personal feeling, this is a vaccine which could have been introduced very many years ago. From the scientific point of view, we want to have the best type of vaccine. Now, when I say the best type of vaccine, it basically indicates that when you introduce a vaccine, you want its efficacy to be as high as possible. Currently, if I compare our measles vaccine to our malaria vaccine, measles vaccine's efficacy can be as high as 90%, while our malaria vaccine can be as high as 60%, depending on the type of antigen or the type of vaccine we use. So when you discuss this with public health specialists, they would tell you that, can you as a scientist improve the efficacy of the vaccine? But over the years, the scientists have realized that even when you change or you modify the type of vaccine that you're using, we have not been able to achieve those high 90s. But like I mentioned earlier, if you had 2 million African children dying of malaria, and you could give a vaccine that is about 50% efficacious, you're saving 1 million lives. And I think that is a big thing that we need to look at. And then the other 1 million, can we use other control measures, bed nets, indoor residual spraying, treatment of children who come in with malaria? Because although we talk about the vaccination, we must also remember when you come to a health facility and you get malaria, you should be treated appropriately such that you don't end up dying due to the malaria event. So the efficacy is still one of the reasons why there was a bit of a delay in achieving, but I think there was a consensus worldwide. I think it's about time we did this. We have many control measures. Let us combine everything and see how well it improves the outcomes. And we know there are countries in Africa that have eliminated malaria.
Wow, that's great.
That's Algeria is the most recent. So it's something really exciting that if we go through the processes, we are controlling, we're eliminating, and then slowly we're looking at the future of eradication. And that's where we want to aim for.
That's great. Our aim in Uganda is to make sure we have eradicated malaria by 2030. And Dr. did talk about proper treatment. It is treatment and not self-medication. I'd like us to take a short break. When we do come back, we are going to respond to all the concerns, queries, and questions from those who are participating on our WhatsApp line, but right after this short commercial break.
In the neighborhood, near stagnant water and mosquito breeding sites, malaria lurks, always waiting to strike. But fear not, for here comes Mr. Vaxxer, the ultimate protector against malaria. For years, malaria has been one of the biggest threats to children under 5, making them weak and even putting their lives at risk. But now, the government is introducing a new solution, the malaria vaccine. The malaria vaccine is now in the routine immunization schedule. The malaria vaccine is administered in 4 doses at 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and 18 months. This vaccine will provide extra protection against severe malaria. And don't forget, routine immunization protects children from many deadly diseases. Every vaccine matters. Visit the nearest health facility for routine immunization services today. Mr. Vaxxer, the malaria vaccine is free, safe, and ready to protect our children. Will you join the fight and complete all 4 doses? For more information, call the Ministry of Health on 0800 100 066. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Bobby, again! What's this drama? Drama? Colleagues, elections for special interest groups are calling. SIGs, elections, youth, PWDs, elderly. It's time to vote for our leaders, June through August. From village to parish to district to nationals, youth, PWDs, elderly. It's time, go vote your leaders. No! FOB! Elections are supposed to be peaceful. Easy vote, okay?
Youth, elderly, and persons with disabilities. It's time to choose our leaders. Let's show up and participate in the special interest group elections. Starting June through August this year. Your vote, your voice. My vote, my voice. This message is brought to you by the Uganda Electoral Commission.
Step into a world of excellence, comfort, and pride with Royal Foam Furniture, crafted to perfection right here in Uganda. We bring you state-of-the-art living room furniture and bedding products at affordable prices. Our wide variety of mattresses include orthopedic, pillow top, spring mattresses suitable for institutions like hotels, and many others for home comfort. With every piece telling a story of royal excellence, our products are built with the highest quality materials made to last. Experience royalty with Royal Foam Furniture, proudly made in Uganda, so buy Uganda and build Uganda. Visit our showrooms at Ginger Road, Chambogo Junction, Bukota Chisasi Road, and on Victoria Mall, Entebbe, on the first floor.
When you want to relax your body and refresh your mind, welcome to Hotel La Confidential, Aroa's premier destination for luxury and comfort. The only hotel in Aroa City offering a serene atmosphere, breathtaking scenery. Come and discover our exclusive wellness club with packages that include a fully equipped gym, a rejuvenating sauna, steam bath, and a great sky blue swimming pool. For events, our state-of-art conference halls and versatile event spaces are perfect for hosting shows, wedding receptions, birthdays, and more. Come and enjoy our cinema hall and unisex saloon, all designed to meet your entertainment and grooming needs. Bring your family and let your kids splash around in our beautiful kids water park. We are located on Aroa Pakwachi Highway in the heart of Aroa City. Don't wait. Visit us on www.hotellaconfidential.com or call us on 0761 688 181.
Uniquely ours. Explore Uganda.
In the neighborhood, near stagnant water and mosquito breeding sites, malaria lurks, always waiting to strike. But fear not, for here comes Mr. Vaxxer, the ultimate protector against malaria. For years, malaria has been one of the biggest threats to children under 5, making them weak and even putting their lives at risk. But now, the government is introducing a new solution: the malaria vaccine. The malaria vaccine is now in the routine immunization schedule. The malaria vaccine is administered in 4 doses at 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and 18 months. This vaccine will provide extra protection against severe malaria. And don't forget, routine immunization protects children from many deadly diseases. Every vaccine matters. Visit the nearest health facility for routine immunization services today. Mr. Vaxxer, the malaria vaccine is free, safe, and ready to protect our children. Will you join the fight and complete all 4 doses? For more information, call the Ministry of Health on 0800 100 066. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health. In the neighborhood near...
You're still watching GMU Extra, and we're talking about the malaria vaccine. Well, thank you so much for participating on the show, because I can see a lot of your questions, concerns are popping in, and the right person to address them is none other than Dr. Munube, who is here with me in studio. Now, Doctor, I would like us to go for the first one. This one is, thanks for this show. It is from Mbale. I just want to know about the effectiveness and accessibility of the vaccine. That's the first person who would like to know.
So thank you. So for the accessibility of the vaccine has been introduced into what we call our routine immunization schedule. So all children who go for immunization will benefit from the vaccine. So that's the first thing. There is no special, what we call intervention. It is within our routine system. In terms of effectiveness, now this is a terminology which we use in immunization world. So effectiveness basically means how well the vaccine works in the real world. By the real world is, now that we are rolling it out, we're going to see how many cases of malaria are we seeing in this group of children that we vaccinate. So we're going to learn about the effectiveness as the years go by. But efficacy basically tells you how well the vaccine worked when it was in a trial situation. And I mentioned this early, The efficacy is about 60% with our malaria vaccine, but we shall know the effectiveness as we roll out the vaccine. Thank you.
Okay. Then this is Hereza from Masindi. Good morning. The question I have is about the number of shots a child has to get. Don't these people think there are too many? Can this vaccine be modified so it can be given once or twice instead of all the 4 doses?
Very interesting question. And I think this is a very technical question, and I do love it in the sense that how do vaccines work? When you give the first dose of the vaccine, you want to know how much immunity or how strong the body has responded to that vaccine. Now, if you give the first dose and you test someone's blood and see how much of the antibodies are formed and they're low, then you need to give a second. And then you test and see how much. And then you give a third. Now, in this case, the malaria vaccine is in a 3+1 dose, or what we call a prime, and boost. So each time we're priming, we're preparing the body to remember this vaccine that has been given. So studies have looked at 2+1, 1+1, but we have seen the best type is when you give 3 doses first, and then you give a boost after. So it's a prime, and boost. Almost similar to when you're painting your house. Some people say you need 1 undercoat, some will say you need 2, some will say you need 3 before you actually put the final coat. Thank you.
Okay. Now, thanks for the show. I'm a student nurse at Mulago. So if a child has malaria at the time of the jab, are they supposed to be vaccinated, or we first treat them, then we vaccinate? And after how long should we vaccinate after they have recovered? This is Samanya Catherine.
So thank you for that question. We have introduced the malaria vaccine at 6 months of age. There's a reason for that. Why? There is what you call the maternal antibodies. So when a baby is born and the mother is breastfeeding, they still pass on some antigens and antibodies from the mother to the baby. So at 6 months, we expect most of the things to have gone out, and then the body can make their own antibodies at that age. If a child comes in sick with malaria, we treat the malaria, and we will still continue with vaccination. We have done studies that look at sick children coming into hospitals. We continue our routine immunization. We don't hold back.
Now, this one is, thank you for the program. My concerns. I have a 1-year-old child who is frequently sick with malaria. Is he eligible for the vaccine? Then she goes aside to say, I fear giving malaria vaccine for now because he may receive the vaccine when he's having malaria silently. What should I do to relieve myself from the above issue? So I think it would have also been helpful if she had mentioned the region where she is, and yes, possibly what she's doing right and what she's not doing right.
So in some regions, the malaria indicator score, which we look at, can be really high. You will go to, let's say, a primary school and get a class of maybe 100 students, and if you take off their blood sample and you look for malaria parasite in them, they'll be swimming, very many swimming around, but it has not translated into the disease. And in such cases, the body has innately made their own immunity against malaria. Now, what does the vaccine do? The vaccine creates that immunity to prevent the progression of the malaria being in your body to move to the disease. So I think that is quite important. We want to reduce on the incidence of the disease. We want to reduce on the severity of the malaria. So instead of you getting, let's say, 100 malaria parasites in a film, you would get maybe about 1. And you may develop just a headache, a fever, you take your antimalarials and you get better. Vis-a-vis that person who has close to 100, who comes in unconscious with low blood levels, with a lot of complications related to malaria. So that is the aim of the immunization here. So for the lady who asked, how do I prevent my child from routinely getting malaria? I think it's important for us to note to use other control measures, sleeping under a mosquito net. When the child falls sick, go to a health facility where the diagnosis is made, and we emphasize a laboratory diagnosis. Your blood should be tested and confirm that you have malaria, and be provided with the malaria treatments that are available in all parts of Uganda.
Doctor, you did mention something about the child can even, when you do a blood sample, can have the parasite living within, but they're okay. Yes. They're not falling sick. What leads to that? What kind of resistance does this child have?
It may not be called resistance. It is the child's immunity. So if I may use the example of a boxer. So boxers train such that when someone hits them, they don't feel the punch as much. Compared to me or you, if you get into a ring, they hit you once and you're flat on the ground. So this child actually is developing innate immunity, that is inborn immunity, that allows them to get bitten by the mosquito. They have the malaria swimming in them, but the body is preventing the multiplication. Because you see, the multiplication is what leads to the symptoms and the signs, what you present with. So that is why some of the children have.
Now, when a child is like that, and let's assume you do the blood sample, do you go an extra mile to still vaccinate them? Or would you go an extra mile to give them the medication, given that you have seen the parasite in the blood sample?
So that is also another technical question, and I do like it in the sense that there's an argument that can you clear out the parasitemia by giving routine treatments? In some diseases, we have done that. You go to an area and there's a disease that is present, and you do mass drug administration, or MDA, where they give out the medicine to show that you clear out all of that infection that is within the community. In some parts of Uganda, that is being done, especially when we get to the rainy season, because the malaria is transmitted when the mosquito comes and bites you, takes out the malaria parasite and takes it to another person. So if you can clear it out for that child who has it swimming, they normally do what you call mass drug administration to clear out the malaria, such that when the mosquito comes, it has nothing to transmit.
Okay, now you're doing that, yes, which is good, but now I'm also thinking their body has been able to resist it, and because of maybe their high immunity. What are the chances when you do that, the next time they're bitten by a mosquito now, the body's immunity will be like a little bit compromised?
That's also an interesting point. The body works in such a way that it develops memory cells. So the memory cells are actually there in the body. They are, I'll say, hiding in quotes somewhere, such that when the parasite or that infection comes back into the body, they wake up and say, hey, I know that thing, I've seen it before. It's something we have fought before in the past. Let's go and deal with it. So the memory cells come back and they multiply and they attack. And that's really the principle for very many vaccine preventable diseases, using the antibodies that are in the body to remember, such that when the infection comes in, you are able to fight it and fight it aggressively. And that's why we say that vaccines are safe.
Okay. Now, for all the times we've talked about the malaria vaccine, there is always this one adult, two adults, more than that, who are always coming out and they're saying, can they get the vaccine as an adult? And this is a question that each and every doctor that has come on the talk show has been able to interface. I will not deny them the chance, because I can't take it for granted that they were watching the last time.
Yes, so vaccination for diseases usually are based on those who are at a high risk. In some countries where they consider this adult high risk, they actually will benefit from some of the vaccines. I'll give a more common thing that we think about. When we grow old as adults, we tend to get a lot of lung or respiratory tract infections. Sometimes we even call them pneumonias. Now, in some countries, once you cross up to 60 years of age, they basically turn you back into a baby and they start revaccinating you for some of those diseases. So if you have an individual who is at a high risk, yes, they can benefit from the vaccination, because we also know when these vaccines were being tested first, they were actually tested in adults first before they came into the children population. Yes, they would benefit, but it will be really on a case-to-case basis.
Now, what precautions should be taken for kids with hematological conditions? Because at certain times, some people also have those guarded, you know, as parents, yeah? And there we are.
So the hematological conditions would have to be divided. They're what we call the benign, where you can have a disease which may not be transmissible, which may not cause you severe illness. And then we have those acute. Now, in the acute forms, there are some medicines that we do give that cause immunosuppression, and the bodies will not be able to respond. So in such cases, in specific leukemias, we delay vaccination until they have completed their treatment, and then we restart afterwards. So there is delayed vaccination in some of these populations that are at a high risk.
Okay, now there we go. Good morning. Thank you for the show. This is Henry Okidoi from Tororo. Government has delayed the distribution of treated mosquito nets. I don't know how far true that is. Why? Secondly, during COVID-19 pandemic in my village, the Ministry of Health empowered VHTs to do more of community awareness on the spread of malaria and other communal diseases. We used to refer them as a Health Center 1. What happened with that initiative? I don't know if the VHTs in this area are not visible anymore. I would like you to respond to Henry Okidoi's concern from Tororo.
Yeah, so thank you, Henry. As far as I'm concerned, and what I know is that the VHT model, or the community health extension worker model, is still present in the Ministry of Health structures. Yes, they are called the level 1 access points, and they still have the same role that you have described, to go into the communities, to educate, to actually even count. Some of these VHTs have been given information about conducting census, number of babies born, number of women who are pregnant, number of children who would require immunization. So they actually are there. So we would need to dig deeper and look specifically at Tororo as a unique district if this is occurring. But we know that the VHTs are present. The terms sometimes keep changing. So we have community health extension workers, but their roles are similar. They provide health education at the lowest level of our health facilities.
Okay. Then you have Chiza Donazio from Chenjojo district. And he's asking, what is the age bracket for vaccination, and when is the exercise beginning at our Health Center 3 outreach? Can one be vaccinated when when he says about the malaria, still that we've responded, but I mean, you need now to help us understand where can they access, because he's talking about a Health Center 3. Is it also in those areas that are already receiving or benefiting from the vaccine?
Yes, so it's important to note that the health system structure is based on the district. So you have the district, you have the health center 4s, you have the health center 3s, the health center 2s, and then our VHTs who are the health center 1. And this is similar to going by the village, the parish, the county, the sub-county, and the district level. So where do you access vaccination from? You actually can access vaccination from health center 2s and above. There are different levels in different districts, but you should be able to receive your vaccines at any of the levels I've mentioned. Secondly, there are outreach activities, or what they call vaccination posts, where specific health workers leave their health facility and come closer to the community, like during market days, during religious activities, let's say on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, they come closer, and this enables better access. But the routine vaccination in the health centers, they take place daily in most of the health facilities, and then of course we have the outreach posts. So I think this information just needs to be relayed to the communities such that they know clearly that vaccination is available in the districts at different levels.
Then I think I would request for you to maybe mention a few. Change is not among those that are benefiting now.
No.
Okay, so please don't go disturbing people at the health centers or the medical workers, because it's not yet in your district. You're just going to have to wait until when it gets to your district. I would like to take this as the last person, I think, who is participating on the show and has a concern or raising their queries. Then we will be able to get back to or sign out on the show. Hello, good morning. I am Josephine from Soroti. Can I vaccinate my kid even when he's suffering from malaria? I know some of them might have just dropped in, but there we go.
Yes, so remember, vaccination for malaria vaccine starts at 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and at 18 months. So if your child is under 18 months of age, they will receive the malaria vaccine. If they're outside of that age, we will only treat your child for malaria and provide you with health education to prevent malaria episodes, such as use of insecticide-treated mosquito nets, keeping the rooms closed in the night, clearing the bushes, etc. And then, of course, in districts where there is indoor residual spraying, you would also benefit from that. Thank you.
Okay. Then also, I would like to, in a few minutes, it's a few minutes to the top of the hour, I would like to request you, Doctor, to be able to share your parting shot to the person watching you, not forgetting any nitty-gritty that they need, because you have seen the areas under which their concerns are coming from as a community.
So first thing, I would like to say that the malaria vaccine is free, is safe, and is effective. It is being provided by the Ministry of Health. It is being rolled out in a phased manner, so every part of the country will receive the vaccine. They have started with the high transmissible districts, and slowly they will go down to the low transmissible. So it's important that every child under the age of 2 years of age should receive all available immunizations that are in the schedule, from birth all the way to 18 months of age. So I will encourage all mothers and fathers to please take their children under 18 months of age for vaccination, because vaccines save lives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. I do really appreciate the information you've been able to share and educate the masses about, and dispel all the myths and misconceptions rotating around the malaria vaccine. For you who's been watching the show, thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for seeking knowledge, because with all this, then you're sure you're dispelling the myths and the misconceptions that are going around in society. And thank you so much, Ministry of Health, for making this possible. As you keep watching UBC TV, I'm sure you'll be seeing the adverts coming in here and there. And at the end of the advert is the Ministry of Health toll-free number. In case you have any questions or concerns, you can always call that number, and at the end of it will be a medical person to respond to you. Right now, I'd like to urge you to keep watching, because we are giving you a repeat of Behind the Headlines. Have a good morning.
In the neighborhood, near stagnant water and mosquito breeding sites, malaria lurks, always waiting to strike. But fear not, for here comes Mr. Vaxxer, the ultimate protector against malaria. For years, malaria has been one of the biggest threats to children under 5, making them weak and even putting their lives at risk. But now, the government is introducing a new solution, the malaria vaccine. The malaria vaccine is now in the routine immunization schedule. The malaria vaccine is administered in 4 doses at 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and 18 months. This vaccine will